Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry I haven't been around last week. Last week was really cold, but I haven't really done much here. I did take off the gauge wheels just to kind of do a little more inspection to see what I might need if there was anything. That usually uncovers a lot of maybe issues, but I kind of got to looking and it doesn't look like I'll have to order any more parts at least. We'll get on that. It's just this past week it got super cold and it kind of seemed like it took all day to do anything. Plus, a lot of times after the first year we start renewing contracts with landlords and things like that. So I've been kind of busy doing stuff like that and back in the office, and there's just all kinds of different things that goes on. And so I plan on getting back to that here in maybe the next video, hopefully next week. So we'll see how that goes. So this video is just going to be a little different since it's more just about kind of the business side of farming, but it's kind of a big side. It's dealing with rent contracts and farming the ground. And a lot of farms are going to rent some sort of ground in some way, shape, or form. If you're lucky, you own most of your ground, but most of us, a lot of us will probably rent ground, whether it's half or more, just depending on the operation. It's different. There's no one set standard for how much acres farms show, and I don't know the statistics, so I'm not going to get into that. But what I do know is kind of what's typical for our farm and the different kind of rental contracts that we have. And the three main ones I'm going to go over, kind of the typical ones that we're used to. And I'm going to start out with the cash contract, and then I'll talk about a bushel contract, and then I'll talk about a share rent contract. They're all going to have their pluses and minuses, and it just depends on what that landlord wants. Starting with the cash lease, typically what you do is you kind of decide on a fair price for what that field's going to be worth, and it's typically kind of based on what the yield history is, kind of the market price, and also just depending on the needs of the landlord. And what you do is you just set a price kind of at the beginning of the year. Typically our leases are year to year just for the market flexibility and different kind of situations, because we've done longer term leases in the past. It's just things kind of tend to happen a little more frequently now than they have in the past. It used to 3 year was a little more common, but now it's typically just year to year for us anyway. And so you set a price, and then you typically pay twice in the year. You usually pay once in the spring half, and then you pay the second half in the fall. And that kind of breaks it up for the farmer, just so he doesn't have to have quite the cash flow issue, paying it all up front. He can spread it out, at the springtime, and then when he harvests, he usually gets a little income in to kind of pay that second half. And that's kind of why you usually pay twice in the year. Not all are like that. Some of them are all up front. Like I said, it just depends on the landlord. The second form of lease is what we call a bushel contract, and that's kind of when the landlord and you kind of set a bushel price, or the landlord sets it, and you kind of base it off, he gets a set amount of bushels, and then what he does is he'll go and market that grain or however he wants to do it. Typically how that's set up, say a field is APH is 200, just for an example, and you kind of go off the old 70-30 share rent type deal, and so 30% of that might be 60 bushel rent. So that guy, say it's a 100-acre field, he's guaranteed 60 bushel an acre, so he's guaranteed 6,000 bushel over that year. And whatever he does with that 6,000 bushel, he can sell it. Say he has cattle, he can keep it. It's whatever that landlord wants. And so that's kind of how they set that price. And then the last one is a pure share rent. So what that does is they get 30% of the bushels, and they take those, and then they can market however they want. And what that is, it's based on your production for that given year. So say 1 year you yield 200 bushel, they get 60 bushel. The next year you yield 250, they get, I think, 75 bushel an acre. So they can take that, and they're a little more risk reward. And that's what kind of the last thing I was going to get to here is the different stages of those contracts. The first one being cash rent is probably the most secure, conservative way. They're set, they know what they're going to get for the year. It's done. They're going to get a check twice or whatever they have set up. The second one is kind of a hybrid between the two, where they're taking risk only on the market side. The volatility of the market, say it's $4 or $3, they take that little bit risk on that side, but they set their bushels so they know what they're going to get that way. And so it's kind of a hybrid of the two. And then last is the share rent, where there's more risk, but there's a potential for more reward, and there's also potential for more downside, because they say that year it's just a bad year and you yield 180, and so you're going to get less. I can't do the math on top of my head while I'm talking here, but anyway, you kind of get what I'm saying is there's more risk, but there's more reward. And so it just kind of depends on what that landlord wants, if they want the more risk or if they want the sure thing. And so we've done quite a bit of all of them. I would say probably most typically, though, it's still kind of mainly cash rent, and other kind of forms of rents. There's more different kinds of flex leases out there. You kind of got ones where, say, you could set a base price, and then say the market goes above a certain point, they could trigger a increase, payment at the end of the year and things like that. There's all kinds of different forms of leases, but the cash, the bushel, and the share rent are kind of still our main three on our farm anyway. Next video, hopefully we'll be back in the shop. Like I said, it's been cold, or it was cold, but the other day we got up to 50, so we've had quite a swing. And I just want to think about those people in Texas that are dealing with a lot of stuff right now. Hopefully it's getting better. I know the weather's warmer, but you still find all the leaks and all the issues, and so let's just pray for them. Before I leave, there was another issue I kind of wanted to talk about in this video, and it's something that we're going to deal with kind of going forward, especially with some politicians and the way they're thinking about cattle manure and the methane issue with cattle. And I listen to AgriTalk a lot. I usually listen to their podcast, and they were mentioning a video, and the guy was on talking about this, and he did a really good job. And so they actually have a YouTube video. It's about 5 minutes, so I encourage you to watch it after this video. I'll post it at the end of this video and also put it down in the link below, just so you guys can take 5 minutes to watch it. But it's a really good video on what cattle methane is, and just I hope you watch it. I'm not going to get into it more, but it just kind of makes us think about, cattle may not be as big as issue as we might think they could be, dealing with this whole carbon emissions thing. So hope you watch it, and like I said, guys, I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.